What's up, student leaders? How's it going tonight? Welcome to the first ever weekly Wake Up. Okay, Nix Your Limits. We're going to start going live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 o'clock Mountain, 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern. And we're just going to come on for a quick 30 minutes and just talk it out and provide a little bit of training, Q&A, and see what's going on. All right, so I hope everybody gets a chance to join us tonight. I'm really excited about doing these kinds of things because this is what it's all about. It's all about taking some time each week to invest in yourself, okay, to invest in you. And the best way you can do that is to start trying to develop yourself, okay? And so that's what this is all about. So we'll see if anybody joins us live on the feed. But today I wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on with Nix Your Limits. We've got a lot of growth coming, a lot of awesome things happening on our website and expansion with the blog, and different things like that. And so just got some awesome things to report up on. Okay, so we've got a lot of great content coming out on the Nix Your Limits website. We've seen a lot of good traffic coming, and a lot of you have helped out with that and just sharing the posts and sharing the links and that kind of thing, referring friends. And I owe you a lot for that. Thank you so much. And that's really exciting for me. And we've got a lot of great content, and we want to hear from you so that we can tailor the posts to what you truly want. In like, what are your problems? What's the hardest thing about being a student today? Whether it's high school, college, it doesn't matter. What is the hardest thing about it? Managing your time, studying, learning about how to stay invested in your time, in those classes that you just feel like you're wasting your time, how to work well with your professors and your teams, how to get that summer job, all of those types of things we want to develop for you on the Nix Your Limits website. Okay, and so that's kind of what that's about. We had some exciting things happening with the Nix Your Limits website. Looking at, hey, we got Zelato joining Indiana Deca. What's going on? We've got some exciting things with the Nix Your Limits brand to expand a little bit, where we are developing and contributing onto two other websites now. There's one called the OCM blog, which is ocm.com/blog. And that's a website all geared towards kind of college students, but high school students can learn a lot from that too. And then there's also the Odyssey Online, and that's another one. We've got posts on both of those. There's a link in the bio on Instagram that you can be able to check out for the link there. But enough about that tonight. Tonight was a request submitted for the weekly Wake Up to talk about how to manage your time, how to balance it all. Okay, and that's a huge thing that I get from a lot of students, a lot of people who are really ambitious and saying man, I want to accomplish so much, but I want to be in school, I want to have an awesome student leader position, I want to be involved in a club, and I want to have a social life, and I want to be healthy, and how am I supposed to do it all at once? And I totally get that because I saw that same thing in my life. It's just all about how do you balance all of that so you can accomplish it all. Because if you're anything like me, this is kind of how I am. If I'm going to do something, I want it to be done all in. I want to be able to do it right, and I want to be able to make the most of that opportunity. And so when I was in high school, I was all about sports and balancing sports with education, because I was really into that. I also later on in high school kind of got into the performance choirs and that kind of thing. So I wanted to be good at that. I didn't want to waste my time or anybody else's time. And then I wanted to have a social life too. And sometimes that can be hard. And it involves what I say, instead of time management, it's all about priority management. Okay, and I like to think, and I had this given to me as a visual by one of my mentors one time, of a circus act with plates spinning. Okay, you got a guy that can put multiple plates up on sticks and spin them and just keep them going, and the guy just runs around and spins these different plates of different sizes and spins the plates around, trying not to let them fall. That exact visual is what it's like to try and balance your different responsibilities with school, maybe your job, trying to be healthy, your social life. Each of those are plates, right? And you just got to go around and you got to spin and do what you can to keep them all going. Okay, because if one falls, then imagine your GPA just following, or like whatever it is, whatever that plate is. And so how do you keep all of that balanced? Well, you look at the way that you prioritize, and that is more important than trying to manage your time. Everybody has the same amount of time in a day. You can't change that. There's no way. There's no way to change it. You, me, Mark Zuckerberg, Walt Disney, President Obama, like everybody's got the same 24 hours in the day. And so how do you use that time? That's what's most important, is how do you use that time to make things happen? And it all has to do with your priorities. So think about the different priorities that you have, and then what you can do to really take advantage of your time to make those priorities happen. And one of the biggest things that I wanted to talk about is the way that people approach to-do lists. Okay, people will write out a to-do list, and then they expect like, oh wow, I'm so organized. Like I have my to-do list, and that's what organized people do, right? They have to-do lists, and so I must be really organized. So that means I'm going to be successful. Let me start cranking out this to-do list. Well, tell me if this sounds like you, okay? When you jump onto a to-do list, you just start listing out everything that you know you have to do that day, that week. Sometimes people make to-do lists for the month. You just start making a list, and then you sit back after you just write out your list, and you write down the easy things, you write down the hard things, you write down the things that you're trying to avoid. Maybe those are a little bit later on in the list because you don't want to write them because that means you have to do them. But you end up with this list, and then you look at it and you say, all right, I've got my to-do list. I'm ready. Let's go. And you look at the top one, and that's the one you start with. And then you work your way down. The problem I have with that is that you didn't take anything into consideration except for the impulsive, how long, like what came to your mind first. And that isn't the most efficient way to manage your priorities. What I call that list that you just made, that you might call a to-do list, I call a brain dump, where you just say, I got to get everything out from my mind onto this paper. And so then you just start listing it out, and that to me is a brain dump, where it doesn't have any organization. You might think you're organized when you do a to-do list. You're not. You are just brain dumping, just getting all your thoughts on paper. Now, the most efficient people will take that one step further. They'll take that list one step further, and they'll start to prioritize it. So the things you need to take into consideration when you turn a brain dump into an actual to-do list are things like timeline. Like, are there due dates attached to any of these tasks? Are any of them time sensitive? Those obviously need to be bumped up the priority list if they're due tomorrow, or if they're due later, like the next day, this week, that kind of thing. Those make priority over the things that are due a month from now, right? Or weeks from now. The things that are due, like today's Wednesday, the things that are due Thursday or Friday take precedence over the things that are due next Thursday or Friday. Okay, so that's one of the first things to keep in mind with to-do lists, is taking a look at the timeline of those things. Okay, so that's one. The second thing that I want you to take into consideration for any to-do list that you do is the mental, taxing load, the mental load that it's going to take for you to accomplish that task. So, for example, I was working with a student leader and talking to him kind of about this principle, and their big struggle was math. Okay, their math class. And I totally respect that because math's hard and it's not everybody's thing. If it's not your thing, it's okay. There's other people out there. If it is your thing, good on you, okay? But in thinking about like what tasks are going to be the hardest, you could say that. What tasks are going to be the hardest for you to accomplish? And you look at that, and then you start kind of adjusting your priorities, right? So you already looked at the timeline of like, okay, what needs to be done first because it's due first, or my deadline is first, and then what can be bumped down the list because, well, there's a lot of time between now and when it's due. And so you do that, and then you look at, okay, with these that are due coming up really soon, what is going to be the hardest? What are some of those hard ones? What are the ones that I don't necessarily understand? I might have to study a little bit more for. I might have to do some research or get some help, those kinds of things, okay? Bump those up the list, all right? Because the problem, like with his student leader, they were waiting until the very end of the day to start working on their hardest tasks, the ones that were going to take the most, like that they were going to be mentally exhausted after. And so the problem with that is if you wait all day long to wait till you start working on that hardest task, that most mentally taxing task, then your willpower to like really think clearly and to work hard and have commitment to it is so weak because you went through the entire day having to make decisions and just choices, going to class, doing practice or whatever it was. And so you are put at a disadvantage because of that. And so by the time you're trying to do that super hard task late at night, you have like zero motivation, and that is never going to be successful for you. So you might get it done, but it's not going to be quality. You're not going to retain it as well, and that's a problem. Okay, so shift things up in your daily routine, maybe, where you work on those harder projects earlier in the day. Okay, and one thing that I have like as advice, people are always looking for more time that they can have during the day. And one of the best places that you can find that time is in the mornings. Okay, a huge problem, and I was guilty of this when I was in school too. To just wake up, roll out of bed, go, like go to class and doing those kinds of things. So that's a problem, and because you just wake up and you go and you're not prepared for the day and that kind of thing. So taking a look at maybe fitting some time in that morning when you read that self-development book, when you kind of work on that project, maybe just writing an outline before you go to school. Anything you can fit into that in the morning can be helpful for you. But anyway, so you look at the time constraints for your to-do list, the priorities that you have, and then you look at what's going to be the hardest and bump those up the list. Okay, and I know it's natural for us to kind of avoid those things, to say, oh, you know what, that's going to be the toughest thing. I'm going to save that for later. Let me whip out all these easy ones. It doesn't work. It's better to do the tough thing right at the beginning. I've heard like phrasing from like different like famous entrepreneurs, or I think Mark Twain said a quote like something similar like this, where it's like first thing in the morning, you got to eat that frog, or like take the bite of the thing that you are avoiding the most. Just jump on it right at the beginning of the day, because you're fresh. Okay, your mind is fresh. You're ready to attack something hard, and so that way you can get it out of the way, and then, man, you get something huge done. You push it aside, and then you just start knocking out, boom, 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 all of the simple things. If you reverse that, like most of the average students do, then you're going boom, 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 and you're starting to get tired. And you know in the back of your mind that big project is waiting for you. And so you do like that easy English assignment, you do that easy science assignment, but then okay, I've got 2 more easy assignments, and then I'm going to have to start working on that big old math homework or whatever it is. It's not going anywhere. So do it first, get it out of the way, and then coast downhill with those easy tasks. That's huge. That's going to be a huge difference maker in the way that you are productive in managing all of your priorities. So that's a huge piece of advice that I would use for organizing your time, okay? Because it's all about trying to have those priorities and know what's happening, okay? So the next piece of advice I have for time management is that everything happens twice, okay? Everything happens twice. It happens first. You think of the 2 different ways that it happens. The first thing that comes to mind automatically is it happens when it happens, right? Like physically when you carry out the task. That's obviously when something happens. But what people don't appreciate or take into consideration often enough is that it also happens in your mind first, okay? And the problem that a lot of average people do is they have it happen in their mind seconds, milliseconds, just right before it actually happens. So the kind of like the phrasing, like think before you speak, right? Sometimes people, before the thought is even complete in their mind, they're already saying it. And sometimes they stick their foot in the mouth, the foot in their mouth during that process. Okay, the same thing can happen with like your homework, with your week, in the way that you plan. Everything happens twice. And the most efficient, the most successful people put as much time as possible in between when it actually happens and when they plan it out and when they think through it, because then that leaves you so much more time to consider problems, potential pitfalls, areas of the idea or project or whatever that you might need help. So it gives you time to involve those people so that you are the most prepared. Think of a job interview, and if there were 2 candidates, one who just showed up barely even knew what the job was, anything about the company. They sat down in the lobby waiting for their name to be called, and they start flipping through the brochure and the catalog and like scrolling through the website on their phone right there in the lobby. And they get, 5, 6, 7 minutes before off they go and they get put into this interview, versus the second candidate who has done a lot of preparation already at home, where they've looked at the website, they've looked at reviews of the company, by like talking to people or inviting other people to share their thoughts, that kind of thing. What's up, Austin? How's it going? And so the difference between those two candidates is that one took a lot of time to prepare and one didn't. And that makes all the difference. So when you prioritize your time, the way that you can do that, an easy way to do that with your classes and things like that, is to have kind of like a weekly like planning session. And that might seem a little like different, surreal for like if you're in high school. I know that would have been for me. But if you take the time to say, okay, what's coming at me this week, then you have a lot more time to figure out what help you might need, what you need to pay a little bit more attention to, and different things like that. So that's what's going to make a huge difference between those who walk into class and say, okay, what do I have to do right now? Versus those who are thinking Sunday night, Monday morning, what do I have this week? You're so much more prepared and I think more calm about it, about the things that are going to come that week, because you've had time to process, time to think about what do I need to succeed, and that can be a huge difference for time management. So that's what we're looking at for today, is how to manage your time, and being able to manage your priorities in the most efficient way possible. So some other notes I have about that is another phrase or a skill I think that a lot of entrepreneurs use, but it can work for students, where you reverse engineer your future. Okay, and so that's something that entrepreneurs use for their companies. They think like, where do I want to be 10 years from now? And then they work backwards. Well, you can do the same thing with your classes, with your goals as a student. So think about what the end of the semester you want it to look like. Maybe you want to graduate. Maybe you want a certain GPA. Okay, and then you start to work backwards. So you say, okay, I want that GPA at the end of the semester is going to be 5 months from now. So let me think backwards. And okay, so I'm not going to, like I know the finals are going to be that last month of the semester. The month before that, we're going to be doing some of these unit tests. The month before that, and you work back to now so you know exactly what you need to do. A lot of teachers, especially as you get into college, so it depends on kind of the high school teacher if they're this organized or if they do this, but they'll hand you out a syllabus at the beginning of the semester where you have everything in front of you. You have like the whole schedule of what's due, when, and kind of like how much it's going to weigh on your grade, different things like that. So the more you kind of study that, the more you get a feel for already experiencing the semester before it even happens. And so then you can look at those weeks when, okay, I know I can't go on that trip with friends because that's just a few days before this huge test that is weighted way more than anybody else and than any of the other tests. And so you can manage your time. And so that's something that you can be able to look at with the time management, is to reverse engineer your future. Okay, so reverse engineer that goal. If you want to get into a certain school, what do you have to do to get there? What application do you need to do? When is that due? Do you need reference letters? Do you need, different things for the scholarship? Think forward first and then work your way backwards. Okay, so that's something that I would want to take a look at. And just overall in your goals, just try to level up. Okay, with your organization, I challenge everybody to try to level up in their personal organization this year and the way they manage their priorities, and to do their best and make this semester the best possible.